Thank you for joining for this next module. In this family evacuation discussion, we will be talking about why it's important to have a family evacuation plan and what role it will play in your personal and family preparedness. So today the objectives, by the end of this class, you should be able to describe what you should be doing before, during, and after a neighborhood evacuation. You should be able to identify the components of a good home evacuation plan, list the 3 types of shelter plans, and explain any special considerations that you need in your plan. All right, so I want you to think back to 2005 after Hurricane Katrina, 5,192. Any ideas on what you think this number may represent? If you guessed it was the number of children missing or displaced after Hurricane Katrina, you would be right. It took over 6 months for the last child to be reunited with their family. So it's a lot of time between the incident and getting that child back home. There was a lot of kids missing as well, and quite a thing. So if you have a family evacuation plan, you can help decrease that number and also decrease the stress of a disaster by making sure that your family knows what to do and how you guys are going to get back together and reunited if you happen to be separated after a disaster. So hopefully you will take the time to really discuss your evacuation plans with your family and go. So first up, we'll talk about neighborhood evacuations. It's what you should be doing before, during, and after. So first thing is you want to become familiar with what types of disasters are likely in your community. So you should do some research and identify what the higher risks are for your area. So for us, it's likely an earthquake. Then you should reach out to your local emergency managers and review those plans and recommendations. So for example, Cache County Sheriff's Office has put together a family emergency guide where they provide more information on specific disasters that may impact our area. So you can just kind of check out on websites for your local areas. There's the counties as well as cities. So Logan and North Logan would have separate plans. So you should just kind of review what plans are in place for your specific area. And then it's important that you identify several options. Just having one place outside of your home is great, but you should have multiple options. Places that you can stay, so whether it be with friends or family in another town or possibly even a hotel. It'd be helpful to think of a place in each direction so you have options in case you can't go a certain way. If you have any pets, be sure to pick places that will accommodate pets. So keep them in mind when you're considering your evacuation plans as your pets or anyone else with special considerations, which we'll discuss a little more in detail at the end or later in the class. And then you need to make sure that you're familiar with your routes and that you have other options. So it's not just one way to get to wherever you're going. You have multiple routes as well as multiple means of transportation. You do need to consider that you might be on foot. So think about the different situations and different ways that you would get from A to B and what you would do depending on what happened. And then it is important that you follow the instructions of your local officials. So make sure that you're signing up for various alerts and message systems for your local area. We're going to discuss this in the next class. Alicia will be going through the various ones that you should sign up for with your family. But we'll discuss that a little more, but make sure that you know how to find those that information and are watching for that information when an evacuation might be likely. And then you do want to make sure you have a family plan. How will you stay in touch if you get separated? It is likely that a disaster could happen during the workday. So you might be at work, your kids might be at school, activities. What would you do? How would your family communicate if you guys aren't together? Where would you meet if you can't get a hold of each other? So think of these things and make sure to kind of work through the different processes and come up with a plan for your family. And then have your go bags ready. So your 72-hour kits, we're going to kind of help getting you guys set and going, but you will need to continue to build those and have those ready. With that, you want to make sure that your family knows where the go bags are and make assignments for who should grab what. So there's some things that might not be able to stay in the go bags, like your medications, some might have to be in the fridge, those type of things. So make an assignment on stuff that isn't in the go bag, who's going to get it. And again, consider that your evacuation may be on foot. So keep this in mind when you're creating the go bags. You don't want something that's super heavy, that's difficult to gather or difficult to carry. So when you're developing your go bags, think about your different modes of transportation. And then it's really a good idea to keep an emergency kit in your car. This could include blankets, first aid kits, jumper cables, cell phone chargers, and you should always at least have a half tank of gas. And if it looks like an evacuation is going to be recommended, it would be a really good idea to get a full tank of gas in your vehicle. And then the last thing you can do before an evacuation is download the FEMA app. You can do that by going to either the Apple Store or the Play Store and downloading, or you can even just text Apple or Android to this number, 43362. This will provide real-time alerts as well as provide you shelter and disaster recovery information. And it's even a really great tool for preparation. There's some good information on what you should be doing and what you need to have as well. So would highly recommend just downloading it and having that on your phone. So once you receive that notice of evacuation, there's a couple things that you should do. The first thing is to continue listening and following local evacuation instructions. So make sure that you have some form of receiving those updates and communications. One option is through a battery-powered radio. It's something we would definitely recommend you get into your emergency supply kit. And so along with that is just that emergency supply kit. Don't leave that at home. If you have to leave your house, make sure you take the time to grab that 72-hour kit, that go bag, and any items that you may need with you as when you evacuate. And then, as definitely can understand, it's difficult to leave that home if or when you receive an evacuation order, but it's really ideal that you leave as quickly as possible. So just gather your family, your pets, and your go bags and head out as soon as that evacuation order is given, just to keep yourself and your family as safe as possible. And again, don't forget about those pets. And with the shelter, you may have to check in advance of where you're going to ensure that your pet can come with you. Often shelters only accept service animals. So if your pet is not a service animal, you may have to figure out a different location. And then it's a great idea to leave a note so that way you can let other people know when you left and where you're going. And that's also beneficial just for first responders so that they know that that home has been evacuated, but then also if you leave and maybe someone wasn't with you, if they go to the house, they'll know where to go and where they could find you. Definitely a good idea to make sure that you are wearing clothes that provide some protection, so such as long pants, long sleeve shirts, and a hat, and then also sturdy shoes. You don't know how long you may end up having to walk, so make sure it's good shoes that will hold up and that you can comfortably walk in for a while. And then it's a great idea to try and check in with your neighbors if possible. If you know someone who may need some assistance with transportation, maybe they don't have a vehicle, if you could check in with them and maybe offer a ride, definitely a great idea. And this is something that in your planning and in your preparation, maybe take that into consideration as well at that time. And then during those evacuations, roads may be closed, areas might be restricted, so you need to make sure you follow the recommended routes and any directions that you're receiving from local responders. And make sure don't take any shortcuts and don't go down any roads or areas that have been blocked off. So just follow those instructions. And make sure that you remain alert. You never know what might have happened during that disaster. You could have some roads that have been washed out, bridges that have been damaged, or some down power lines. So keep an eye out for what's around you and can make sure that you're driving safely through those areas. And then also, if it's a flooding situation, you don't want to drive through high water situations. So if the road is not safe, just make sure you turn around and find a different way out. And then a couple of things that before you leave home, if there is time, this is something that, if it's an immediate evacuation, you got to get out the door right now, then you can deal with these things later. But if you do have that time in advance, try and do these things. So first off, definitely want to make sure you maintain that contact with your out-of-state contact, so that the way you can let them know where you're going, who's with you, what your guys' plans are. And then additionally, secure your home. So if you can, make sure you lock your windows, lock your doors. And you should also try to unplug small appliances, so kitchen appliances, your radios, your TVs, items like that should be unplugged. However, you do want to make sure you leave your freezers and refrigerators plugged in unless there is risk of flooding. Just if possible, if there's no flooding concerns for what you're evacuating, if you can leave those freezers and refrigerators plugged in, they can continue to stay cool, and so you can hopefully, when you get back in, won't have loss of food as well. And then the last thing that you could do if you have time again is to try and shut off your water, your gas, and your electricity. Do this if you are instructed to do so, or if there is damage to your home. Then that would be a good idea to take the time to shut off those utilities. Alright, so after an evacuation, a couple things to consider. It will be important to check with local officials both where you're staying and back home before you travel. When you are returning to disaster-affected areas, it's likely that there are going to be significant disruptions to daily activities. And remember that while returning to home, that storm debris can be very dangerous. So keep that in mind. Make sure you check with those local officials to see if it's even safe to go back yet. Once you've determined that it's safe, it's going to be important that you update your friends and family. So again, referring to that communications plan. Make sure you let that contact know what your plans are, and let them know when you're heading out, and then make sure you check in with them once you arrive. If it's going to be a longer trip and it might be more than one day, maybe, check in with them as much as possible. Keep them up to date. And then make sure that when you leave, you have fully charged devices. So that's like your phone and your radios. With the radios, make sure you have some backup batteries just in case as well, because you want to make sure you still have a way to be contacted, a way to contact, and a way to follow local updates. And then make sure, if you're driving, that your gas tank is completely full before leaving. It's also a good idea to find a fuel app that would allow you to check for outages along your route, so that way you know where you can fill up and where you won't be able to do that. Make sure you have food and water with you. Your food items should be non-perishable. You don't know what you're really looking at when you get home. You might still be seeing power outages, so you want to avoid food that needs the refrigeration or freezing as much as possible. And then similar with when you're leaving for an evacuation, when you are evacuating, being alert while you're driving is still going to be an essential thing while going back home. Keep an eye out for those down power lines or utility lines. If you see them, stay away from them and report them immediately to the power company or utility company. And then once you make it back home, if you are going to be using a generator, make sure you do so safely. Generators should only be used outside and away from your home. You should never run a generator inside your house or inside a garage even. those should be completely outside, away from your home and not enclosed. And then also with that, when we're using a generator, you should be running power lines, electrical cords that you then plug into. You do not connect it to your home's electrical system. Do not do that. It's very unsafe. Okay, so then just home evacuation plan with looking more at a fire drill, and how is your family going to get out of the home. So a couple things that you want to consider. If there was a fire in your home, does your family know what to do and where to meet? So there are 4 parts to a home evacuation plan. First is to escape. How will you get out of the house? With this, you should set a goal to be able to get out of your home in under 2 minutes. You should identify at least 2 ways out of every room. This will help prepare for potential blocked or dangerous paths. So during an evacuation, if a door, like your original plan A, is blocked, you can't get out, there's fire on the other side of the door, what's your other backup plan? Try and consider multiple ways out of each room. And with that, if you're talking about upper floor rooms, it's a good idea to consider escape ladders. And with this escape portion, make sure that everyone in your family understands they should not stop to grab things. Their goal and their focus should be getting out of the home. All right, next up is location. Where will you meet? It's important to identify a safe meeting place across the street or next door to your home. Make sure you are not in front of your home. That is where your firefighters and responders are going to be. So try and make sure your meeting place is away from where they are going. And then make sure you take a roll and let the firefighters know whether everyone is out or if there's anyone in the house still. All right, and then you should practice. Practice is an important part of actually having a successful evacuation. You should schedule your drills. Make sure you know how you will complete the drills. And a part of that is making sure that you're timing the drills as well, because again, you want that goal of under 2 minutes. You should do the drills at least 2 times a year, so a good time to do that is just when you change your clocks. So when we spring forward or fall backward, it's a good idea to just build your drills in and make that part of your seasonal change. When you're doing this, it's a good time to test your smoke detectors. This will also help make sure everyone knows the sound, and will verify that your detectors are working properly. So it's a really good time to just kind of test a lot of different things. When you are practicing and doing your drills, make sure that you are having the family, your kids, getting low and crawling on the ground to simulate having to stay low due to smoke. So just keep that in mind. It's a good way to practice. And okay, so a couple things that you should consider for your children when you are making your plans. First up, are they able to get out on their own? It's recommended for kids under 6 and others who might not be able to get out on their own that there's someone assigned to them to help them out. So that's something that you should write down in your plan of who is helping who. And then, do they know what to do when they hear a smoke alarm? Take some time to teach your children about smoke detectors, set them off so they know what to listen for, and then make sure that they know to leave the house or the building. Make sure that it's not just for home, but maybe if they're at school or whatever, if they hear a smoke alarm, they should be getting out. And then, do they know how to safely get out? So make sure to teach them how to get low and crawl on the ground in case there is smoke, and then show them how to check for doors using the back of their hand to check for heat, And once doing that, if they feel heat, they should go to plan B. And then what should they do once outside? It's important to teach a child to never return to the building when an alarm is going off. Once they are out, they should stay out. And then, do they know where to find and how to use an escape ladder? If an escape ladder is part of their evacuation plan, so if they're on the upper level, it's really important that you go through that with them. Make sure that they know how to use it, and when you're considering the evacuation routes, are they able to actually do that? Is the window too high for them to get out that window, or is there a wheel well if they're down in the basement? Consider those type of things and make sure that they know how to get out and that they are practicing to get out, so you know that they can get out in the routes that you've developed. You should have for your family. So first is stay at home, and we have mass care, sheltering in place. In each of these situations, it is important you stay informed and follow the instructions of your local authority. All right, so stay at home. If you think back to spring of 2020, when we were told to stay at home for 2 weeks because of COVID, that's a stay-at-home model. So what we were doing there is pretty much what a stay-at-home is. So a couple of things is to remain indoors as much as possible. You should plan to have enough food, water, or other items such as TP to allow you to stay at home for at least 2 weeks. Try building that into your food storage, which again is one of our classes later, so we'll talk about that more. Being outside in your outdoor spaces, such as your patio, porch, and yard, is encouraged and it is safe. Then essential services are okay when necessary. So gas stations, grocery stores, doctors, pharmacies, you should strive to limit those as much as possible. So again, try and get that 2 weeks of food so that way you don't have to go to the grocery store. But if it's necessary, you gotta do it, go for it. And then you got outdoor activities in general. So like if you want to go outside walking, running, hiking, whatever it may be, that is encouraged. It's good for you. It's good for your mental health. Awesome. Biggest part with that is just make sure that you have proper social distancing. So whatever you may be doing, make sure you have the space. And then you should be limiting your visitors. Try to keep contact to those you live with, and for others, use technology to stay connected. So that could be video chatting, calling, texting, whatever it is, but try and keep your pods separate. All right, so mass care shelters. These will often be set up to provide care to disaster survivors. Again, with this, hopefully we emphasize this enough that if you have to evacuate, you should be taking your 72-hour kit, your go bag, whatever you want to call it, with you. Most of the time, the shelters will provide water, food, medicine, basic sanitary facilities, but you should still bring your you should still bring your go bag, your 72-hour kit. These sites are focused on providing for basic needs of the survivors, so the items in your kit that will make it a little more comfortable, like your hygiene kit, some comfort items. Those things will likely not be found at a mass care shelter, so bringing them will help make it a little more comfortable for you. We do recommend that you have some books, games, or other activities in your kit. That's going to be one of the last items we provide. Is some coloring books with some crayons, so that way even if you don't have kids, you can have that and share that with those around you. That will just kind of help make the shelter a little more comfortable for everybody. So again, make sure you take that kit with you. Good idea to add some cleaning items into your kits, so hand sanitizer, disinfecting wipes, that kind of thing. And then again with this, check with the local officials. Make sure you know what the shelter spaces are available. Locations may change depending on the disaster. You should be able to use the FEMA app to help find a shelter as well. Reminder with that, service animals are usually the only ones allowed, so make sure you have a plan for your pets. and then be prepared to live in confined space with others. Shelters could be very full, and space is often limited. So just keep that in mind when you are going to a mass care shelter. All right, so then we have sheltering in place. So this, whether you are at home, work, school, wherever you may be, there may be times that the best thing to do is to stay where you are. This could include if you see large amounts of debris in the air, local authorities say the air is badly contaminated, or you just assess the situation and determine there is an immediate danger. So this could be less likely for us, but you never know. For example, a tornado. So first off, it's going to be important to get inside. Make sure you bring your family and your pets all inside. And then you should be monitoring for updates. So if you can, watch the TV, listen to radio, check the internet for any updates, official news, and instructions. Just keep in touch so that way you know what's going on and if there's new instructions and what you should be doing. Depending on the situation, you should lock the doors, close the windows, the air vents, the fireplace dampeners. You should also make sure you turn off fans, air conditioning, and forced air heating systems. And again, we come back to that supply kit, or the 72-hour kit. Make sure you take it with you. If you're having to go downstairs or wherever it may be, like your interior room, take that kit with you. Unless you think it may have been contaminated, it should go with you. And then you should be getting into an interior room with few windows, or basements are good as well, wherever you can get to try and find the most protected place in your house or work office, wherever you may be. And then you should seal all the windows, doors, and air vents. This is more if you're talking contaminated air, obviously. With this, you should be using thick plastic sheeting and duct tape. If you really want to actually be prepared for this, obviously you need that on hand. So having plastic, duct tape, good idea. But you could also measure and cut in advance to save you some time and make it a little faster and easier to seal up. All right, so the last part of the class, we're just going to talk about some special considerations and for specific needs with. All right, so when you're making your plan, make sure to consider each of these items and plan accordingly. For example, for babies and toddlers, make sure you have items that they will need, such as formula, diapers, wipes, that type of stuff. For younger children, consider their ability to carry things. If you plan for each individual to carry their own go bag, make sure each go bag is appropriate for the size and the ability of each individual. Make sure you consider any special dietary needs, whether that might be allergies, sensitivities, religious, or choice, and have a plan to accommodate those needs. So in your go bags, make sure you have whatever food you need to fit whatever needs are in your family. Ensure you bring medications with your go bags. Whatever medications are needed, make sure those come with you. If you have pets, make sure you include their needs in your go bags as well. So that would be foods, bowls, water, etc. And then consider where people might be when a disaster happens, such as school or work. Think about each member's responsibilities for assisting others as well. Do they have a job that they would need to respond to? Is there someone they provide or care for outside of the family? Think about those things and make sure that you're in that thought process. And then specifically school and daycare. Obviously, it'd be beneficial to you and your family to plan for what you would do if a disaster happens while you are away at home, school, or work. What would you do if a disaster strikes while your kid is in school? Obviously, school-age kids can spend a lot of time outside of the home and at school, so really important to consider school and daycare when you are making your family plan. So it's really as easy as ABC. These are things that you need to include in your family plans. So first is ask. So you should be talking to your school or your daycare provider, and you should find out what their plans are. Where's their reunification spot, and how would they communicate with you? Ask how often they review the safety plans, and get involved and advocate for your child. Once you know what the school plan is, be sure to incorporate it into your family plan accordingly. And then you should be, for B, bring. So it is possible that in an emergency, your child may have to stay overnight at the school. So you need to think about what they would require for an unplanned sleepover. Think about their medication, any special equipment, food, um, whatever your child might need for an overnight stay. And then does the school have a stockpile of that? So talk to them, ask them if they have that, or is that something that you can send, provide? How do you fill that need for your kid? And with medication, can the school have medication extra for your child on hand? And then also consider what is their policy for administering that medication. So make sure you discuss those things and have plans in place so that your child has what they need if they have to stay overnight. And then C is complete. So you should fill out a backpack card or backpack emergency card and put it in a safe place, likely a backpack for your child. And then you should also have one for you as well in your wallet. And then make sure your kid knows where to find this. It doesn't do them a lot of good if it's just there and they don't know that something happened, I need to pull this out and I need to call or do whatever's on your list. So, slide. This is just a QR code that if you go ahead and scan with your phones, it will take you to the CDC site where they have a nice backpack card. So you can go ahead and download that and fill that out for your family and get those going for each of your kids and their various needs. So that takes us to the end of this course. If you have any questions, please reach out to us at roadmap@brhd.org and we can answer any questions or provide any additional information. Thank you.